Politicians to bring people. Money was allocated. People were put in buses. They were brought in. These are not things I'm guessing. I know for a fact.
The president called Mother Kennedy Onyango and promised that he'd follow up on the story. Then we watched her a year later saying the president never talked to her again.
If you Google this shoe, you find it's 175,000. Yeah? But my plug delivered this shoe for less than that by far.
So wacha nikuulize.
Is it out there? So okay, let me look at this camera and say first, I am sincerely sorry for anyone who has undergone an abduction or an illegal arrest, because some of those things that were put as abductions are actually arrests. But my plug delivered this shoe for less than that by far.
So wacha nikuulize.
Is it out there? So okay, if you take this shoe and Google it, you'll get the wrong price.
Tunataka kuuliza Itumbi.
Yeah.
Basi wacha nikuulize hivi.
Plug wangu manzeni msee wa nguvu sana. Ukamu ni connect kwa plug. Ekonene.
Yes, episode 532. Tukisema like, subscribe, hit the notification button, tell a friend to tell a friend. Na hili sit down moja nimekuwa nikilook forward tu kabisa. Yeah, leo tuko na Dennis Itumbi. Na Dennis juko ushaisikia nikisema jo. Musamaga according to mimi kuna faa kuwa CS jo. Juko ushaisikia nikisema hivyo, like I feel like you are under let's just get into business. Na feel ni kama you are under rewarded. Do you sometimes kiwa peke yako feel like that?
I'm actually over rewarded. Umeona bana, ofisi niko na ofisi hapa peke yangu hapa, tunafanya na vijana hapa hivi.
Yeah.
Nimepewa an open space to create, imagine and do whatever I think should be done for government and young people in the creative economy and digital economy. So mina feel ni kama yani I was given more than I asked for.
Yes, but not more than you deserve.
Nakumbuka by then niko nimepewa CS. So I was an assistant minister for a day.
Oh, CAS?
Yeah. I was an assistant minister for ICT for a day.
Yes.
Kabla watu waende kotini wakapata orders za kustop. So, I mean, I've been given the opportunities. And let me tell you, it is not what you get. It is what you do with what you get.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Because hii inaweza kufanya vitu zako zikuwe awkward the next time. But I remember like specifically nikibonga juu yako, nilikuwa nasema that Mvurya position was yours kabisa. Like you're the guy that I look at that government and I see someone who understands the youth, sports na the creative economy ni wewe kabisa. But I understand, you have to be diplomatic.
No, nashukuru.
Plus unajua huwezi itisha fomo. Unaitishanga for less than okay.
No, Mwafrika tamu-elect president. Then naona shani ya kiaka ministerial position somewhere.
Shadow cabinet.
So, first things first. What it was in a very light business.
Yes.
Nani run account ya president jo? Because nataka ni unblock jo. Niko blocked.
Tutakuwa unblock.
Uko sure?
Yes.
So number 1. Number 2 pia nataka ubonge na Najma. Najma alinitoaga jo kwa group jo.
No,
na alinitoa kwa group because I think we added an Nini reporter. Because at some point your group ikianzishwa, everyone could add everyone. So mi kuna siku nimeamka tukapata like a new Nini reporter. Uleko nataka ende kwa streets na Silver Kido. Tukasema wacha tumrushe pale. Najma kauliza like who is this? Then tukatolewa sisi wote kwa group.
Now pia najua there is some side show mlifanya kidogo. Unajua fadhali nikwambia ukweli.
Yeah.
So event ilikuwa about something else. I don't quite remember what it was.
Yes.
Lakini pia nyinyi mlifanya side show kidogo on the reporting.
Yeah.
Ukiangalia White House reporters manual.
Yes.
There is a White House correspondence thing.
Yes.
Na ukienda outside the main issue enda kwa side shows.
Yes.
Even Congress and even our parliament here by the way. That's why unaonanga KBC ndio inatoa feed kwa kila mtu. Ndio pia tusiende kwa side shows to stick kwa the main issue. So kulikuwa na issue hapo ya side show, but I mean now I think it's a question of people sitting down, muambie what it was, you explain what you are doing, alafu muagree mrudi. I mean I will have that conversation with Najma.
Oh, so side show ilikuwa ni the fact ulionyesha State House bado inabuildiwa.
No, but you see, hakuna ubaya hata tunaweza kuita kesho uonesha how the building is being done. But on that day, there was a specific issue.
Yes.
So hiyo kufanya side show instead of the main issue, it's not acceptable anywhere in the world actually.
Yeah.
When you're doing especially Congress coverage, Parliament coverage, White House, State House, anywhere in the world, especially at that level,
Yes.
you need to, kama issue ilikuwa health, you need to focus on that health for that coverage.
Yes.
As for your reports, you can go do whatever else you want to do on the reports,
Yes.
but for the invite of that presser, you need to concentrate on the main issue. But as I said, we are all learning, we learn together,
Yes.
we get the lessons, and then we implement and correct. So hiyo ni kitu ta correct, nitaongea na Najma.
msikue hash hivo njo ile time tuko like hii serikali iko na siri mingi alafu mnatuonyesha mko na siri understand cause kitu fani ni after tufanye hiyo report we were accused mi na yeye of being paid by State House because one of the things that we do is as much as to criticize when a good thing happens suisifu so ukienda tu andike mwafrika paid utaona mwafrika has been paid he's been paid
even the yellow ile yellow inakuanga iko nini inasemekanaga 30% government.
So it's okay, we'll correct that. That's not it's good you have brought it up.
Yes.
I'll raise it within the team. I'm sure Najma would be willing to engage. So
yes.
I'm sure he will engage.
Okay. So sasa nataka to get into the politics, yes? Na kabla tuingia kwa the politics of today, nataka to go back to because this I feel like this makes sense. So in 2019, sindio? Ile time political temperatures zilikuwa juu kabisa. Ulikuwa arrested because ulisemaga there was a plot to assassinate Ruto. Right now, a lot of people are being arrested. At least last year, so ulikuwa arrestiwa for misinformation. So do you see the correlation between the two?
People are arrested for misinformation?
Yes, misinformation. By misinformation, I'll say, even when people wanna post leave funeral home, it's misinformation to a certain level, yes? So do you see a correlation between your arrest and the arrests that were happening last year?
Let me start by saying, any arrest or in fact any abductions.
Yes.
I've been abducted. So I know, kwanza mimi nilichapwa. I always see when at least they, at the fair bit of it, they come out healthy.
Yes.
I stayed in hospital for 4 months. Nani watu walinichapa. Wale jamaa wanajua kuchapana sana, whoever it was. And I was also working with some 2 Indians who I lifted and dropped into Amboseli and eaten by hyenas. At least that extent has not happened now. It's there. If you just go Google the 2 Indians who worked with us, you find 2 Indians and a taxi driver who had picked them, who were picked. They were put on a chop. They were first of all beaten up kabisa. Kulikuwa na container of death pale Nairobi area. So wakachapwa, then wakaekwa kwa ndege, wakaenda wakadropiwa Amboseli, and they were eaten by hyenas. Fortunately, those people have now been arrested. They are facing charges at Kahawa. If you look at it, you find it. But you can see the kind of heinous beats that human beings can go to. At least we haven't gone to that extent here. And I am not excusing abductions and arrest. What do I think about misinformation? I have been a very strong advocate from not even 2019, for a very long time, from 2013, that it is a constitutional right to get it wrong.
Yes.
It is a constitutional right to actually make a mistake. There's nowhere in the constitution that says you shouldn't do a mistake.
Yes.
So mistakes are allowed. However, we need to find a place where we are able to inform our people about fake news.
Yes.
And separate it from the real news. The industry of fake news is over and above about $10 billion in the world.
Yes.
So I think fact checking, and that's why I've survived with basically a brand that says system your facts.
Yes.
Fact checking is important. There's too much fake news. Just the other day, including to very top leaders, we were being told there is a force that got into our borders and they're somewhere in Mandera. But even when media houses sent their people there are no such things. So what the situation you have is that you have people who then deliberately tell fake news, like what you're talking about Lee. We must find a way. Otherwise, one day, you'll mislead an entire country and cause chaos. Misinformation is the fastest way towards chaos. So there must be a way to check it. But if we can handle it off the courts, that would be good. Maybe, I don't know what system. I've seen those systems also in other jurisdiction where your accounts are suspended, you undergo some fine kind of thing, and then you undergo a training on it, and then you get restored. There must be a way that we correct it. I'm completely opposed to the current use of the criminal law element to deal with fake news.
Yes. So yako, how would you classify it when you say that there was a plot to assassinate the then Deputy President William Ruto? Where had you gotten this information and how credible was it?
Absolutely factual. I have videos. I stood in court. I wanted to play them. The then DCI boss cannot opposed. Those matters are in court. The file is in court. You can access
Video
it.
bado ziko?
Yes, it's in court. In fact, there is an order for me not to play it, which exists up to today. Then there is we went through the court process. The former PS for Interior, Karanja Kibicho, was a complainant. When we went to court, we told him to come and testify on what he was complaining about, to say basically that there was no such a meeting, so that then I would call the people who attended to say that we were actually in that meeting and this was planned.
So what was the meeting? Because from the outside, we just tunajua ulikuwa arrested, but tukasikia ulikuwa arrested for, because ulipostig on Twitter, yes? But tukujua the nitty-gritties that there was a meeting. So what was the meeting?
I would not want to go too deep into it, but because you've asked, I will give you an overview.
Yes.
The former PS for Interior, Karanja Kibicho.
Yes.
And by the way, you should go to his Facebook account. I think 2 days ago, he tried to confront me on that issue.
Yes.
And the response is still there. So you can get it even as you edit for this podcast. So Karanja Kibicho called a meeting at Lamada.
Yes.
Lamada is a hotel.
Yes.
Next to the NIS headquarters. And he called all the PSs who were then working for government.
Yes.
They met in the basement of Lamada. I even have the order of how they got in because I saw it. Yeah. So one of the people who attended that was the former CS for ICT, Joe Musheru, who excused himself, said, okay, I've turned up because we were called, but I am excusing myself because he had a flight to Rwanda.
Yes.
That's another place to check. Did he actually fly to Rwanda? Because,
Yes.
I mean, those are how you check whether the information is true. Former CS, I think, Water, Cicely Karaoke, also attended. And she also excused herself out of the meeting. The former PS for Interior stood in that meeting and said, do not worry yourself about this campaign about the deputy president becoming president. We are going to do everything possible, including to what we did to Saitoti.
Oh.
He said it. I said it in court. I told him to come and he was a complainant. We asked him to come and take the stand and say it was not true. He ran away. In fact, he used his power to remove his name. Only that I had the originals because, you know, there's something you sign at DCI which shows you the complainant. So I had the original because I had a copy. So we tabled it in court. What then happened? After they took me to court saying it was misinformation, I stood that it was factual. What happened to the case? It collapsed because first they didn't bring witnesses. They called ministers. You remember ministers were called to DCI to record a statement and they said they cannot record the statement. We called those ministers to come and testify cross-examinations. They never came because this was factual. That is why I won the case. That is why I am free because I've made a brand out of my interactions to be factual and truthful. So whatever is not true and factual, I don't post. Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, another thing happens. Now in 2021, December 23. What do you remember about that day?
I was in the Kinyozi.
Yeah.
A friend of mine had called me. I work with him. He's called Githai. And he wanted us to meet somewhere at Village Market. And then I also had some money I wanted to send to my mom. So as I went to send the money, I decided, okay, let me have a shave. I send the money. Then I go and see my friend. Why I was sending money to my mom, other than the fact that she's my mom, I can send her money any other time. It was also near Christmas.
Yes.
So she needed to make some preparations at home and stuff, and so I was sending something on it. So as I was shaving, first there was a chatter there that, you know, people are being arrested out there for masks and stuff. So I didn't take too much attention because, I mean, police have a right to do their job. After the shave, as I was moving out, 3 men approached me. Say they were police officers. I demanded for their identification. They declined. Then they started pulling me. At that point, there is a car wash there. I shouted to the guys at the car wash. I was telling them, put it on social media. These guys are not police because of the way they handled that moment.
Yes.
Then, of course, they held me. They bundled me into this car, and they really beat me up for about the next 4-6 hours. I don't remember exactly the amount of hours, but I know it was early afternoon, 3 p.m. And by the time they released me, it was around, you know, in between 10 and 1 a.m. I don't remember the exact details.
Yes.
But they beat me up a good one. They even took me to some place. First of all, they threw out my phones because they demanded I have to open the phones. And I told them I can only open them via my eyes, facial recognition. And they said no way. So they threw off the phones. Then they took me to some place. I think there was a descent. That's what I remember, because of course they had blindfolded me. So in that descent, as I was walking down, I felt like I was being thrown into a river and they were about to shoot me, but they didn't. Then they bait me. Their demand was that I should stop supporting William Ruto for president. And I kept telling them my democratic decisions cannot be decided by the barrel of a gun or by the heat of a rod. So basically after that, the pressure online became too much. So I could hear them on the radio saying, "Bana, lazima mwachilie huyo jamaa mahali yote mko." So they took a detour. I could hear, I was blindfolded. At one point, by the way, we hit a bump. And so the cloth they had tied me with went up. So they thought I had seen them. So they started putting their fingers inside my eyes. And blood streamed down my eyes.
Yes.
So by the time they dropped me, they had already unstripped me. I was completely naked. And then there was a taxi driver there who really helped me, who took me up. Then took me to... He was also afraid.
Like how many hours after the abduction? So your abduction did last 24 hours?
No, it didn't last 24 hours. It was from 3 p.m. to around, safely around 1 a.m. We can get the exact time because they didn't take too long to go to the hospital at Kasarani Stadium.
Yes.
St. Francis, I think. So they recorded the time I was there, so I'm sure we can get the exact time. But it was around 1 a.m. there. Yeah.
Okay. And if you are to ulisikia story ya Billy Mwangi, because Billy Mwangi went through the exact same thing you went through.
Yeah, I had his interview. I heard about his psychological torture and all that bit, and the room that he was, and it was a full room and that stuff.
Yes.
But as I told him, Africa, I still think first abduction is wrong in whatever form it takes.
Yes.
However, at least Billy came out and was still, he whatever he was dropped, he went home. He didn't go to, basically he was not admitted in hospital. These guys literally were killing me. They beat me up. They broke my legs. I had to nurse a broken leg for another 3 months. So the physical, and I got both physical and emotional injuries. And, as for me, I had Billy Mwangi say he cannot forgive. As for me, I forgave those guys. In fact, I had the opportunity to join the case that's going on the guys who killed the Indians.
Yes.
I was telling you the kind of abductions that happened then were crazy. I mean, they abducted 2 guys, but then these Indians were here. They were doing that. They were just doing the normal things, graphic design stuff. They were young guys. They were fed to wild animals.
Because hiyo ndio kitu pia nilikuwa nataka tubongeje yake, because this now happens the same. So wewe ulikuwa abducted on 23rd of December 2021, and the Indians same day?
No, I can't put the exact day of the Indians because they got lost. They used to meet. I used to meet with them every morning. So this morning they don't come. The next one they don't come. Then now eventually, when investigation about their phones are done and the whole thing is done for the whole thing to be traced and these guys arrested, and this now post William Ruto winning. That's when we knew that these guys were now he's president. So we've asked the security mechanisms to find out what happened, and then we found what happened. So that we found out far much later. So I don't have an exact date on when
they were
abducted.
abducted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the family, man, it's crazy. The families still keep asking.
So mliambiwa, like, what happened to them? Where were they abducted? Walipatikana wapi?
Westlands. They were leaving a club in Westlands. Then they got a taxi driven by a guy I think called Musyoka. It's from the Ukambani region. And all of them were abducted. They were put at Nairobi area, where they were put in this container of death where people used to be killed before being thrown into River Yala. And the former Interior Minister Fred Matiang'i and former PS Kibicho and the others who were involved who I don't quite know, but it happened in their tenure. So I mean, it's them who owe the answers.
Yes.
So they were beaten up. These were Indians who were beaten up at the container of Nairobi area.
Nairobi too?
Yes.
Somewhere?
Nairobi area. It's a DCI office next to EACC offices. It's called Nairobi area. I mean, even the president has spoken about it earlier. If you look at videos, you'll find he spoke about that container of death. Were killed and then put into sacks and sent into River Yala and other places. So these ones were I don't know whether at the point of leaving the container of death or they were already dead. The court process, I'm sure, will confirm. But at the point where the bottom line is that they left there and they were dropped at Amboseli.
Damn. So was anything ever recovered?
I don't know.
Kwa
Is it
bodies zao?
Amboseli or is it Savo? It's one of the two. Yeah.
Well, did they ever recover any part of their bodies for the families?
Let the court process begin. I know the answer to that. Why I'm avoiding also, I don't want us to make it sub judice to the point of what evidence is being tabled and stuff. I know the answer of what you're asking, but the court process, I encourage you as a podcast to also follow it and see how brutal human beings can become just because of elections.
But sasa, yeah.
No, by you forgiving, is it that you understand that it comes with a job? Like, abductions and maybe the torture?
No. I'm a product of a very tight upbringing. The late Archbishop David Gitari was my grandfather. At one point, people were sent into his home and they invaded his home just because he opposed the Kanu regime. He then wrote a book called In Season and Out of Season. And in the book, he actually does a whole sermon saying, I forgive. So I take the lessons from my late grandfather that sometimes even when you are the one who is most disadvantaged, sometimes even for healing purposes and for me to be able to focus on what I've been given to do, I can hold the bitterness for long. But I didn't see the reason. I'm healed, I'm walking. They didn't take, at one point I know, they were hitting me with those new doors. And then at one point they had this pin they were putting on some parts of me and they were hitting it. That pain, it's very serious pain. And they were hitting, and it took me time to heal, to even be able to do what men can do because of the amount of pain and torture they did. It took me a lot of time to heal. But now I'm healed. I'm able to do the normal functions that everybody else can be able to do. So the question was, do I want a long winding case against some guys who now in car I faced? And, so, I told them to their face, I forgive you guys. I told C.S. Matiang'i, I forgive you, C.S. Matiang'i. I have told former PS Interior Kibicho, I forgive you. Kibicho may not have been involved in directly ordering, but I forgive him because he had an opportunity to stop it, he did not. So I told him to his face, I forgive you. In fact, I've even told him on Facebook, when you look in that conversation, that, my friend, I'm even willing to have lunch with you. I've moved on. There are more better things to do.
Because now, if we go back to Billy, akisikia hivi, atafeel kama ume downplay his situation. Because he talks about he's abducted, he's tied, then anapelekwa kwa room. So it's like a small room, and the first thing anaambiwa ni vua nguo. So anavua tu uchi wa mnyama, and then he was handcuffed kwa one hand. After being handcuffed kwa one hand, he was given 2 containers. Container moja kambo itakuwekea maji hapa, ingine utaitumia kwa kinyesi na kukojoa. And ya kinyesi na kukojoa, he stayed with that for 3 days. So he helped himself there. Yo maji anafaa kukunywa iko hapo next. They didn't even give him something to wipe himself. Na during that time, they were beating him wakitumia pipes. Yeye alisema at least haikuwa nini. So siku ya kwanza ilikuwa pipes si za kawaida. Kwanza man kama ya Bunsen burner. Afu anamwambia heshimu rais, utaheshimu rais, heshimu rais, utaheshimu rais. You understand, for someone like you who would have gone through that, can you understand why that was also as bad as your situation? Like, we can't...
Absolutely. I don't want to put them on a scale and say this was worse and this was better.
Yeah.
I'm only saying, when I look at release, at least he came out healthy.
I have 16 days, Buddha. Yeah. At least yako unaweza sema 9 hours. Eh?
Yeah.
16 days ni tricky.
There was an emotional pain. I totally, by the way, I don't want us to make it like we are discussing which was better abduction and which was bad abduction.
Abduction zote ni mbaya.
I don't want to say this was a better abduction, and I sincerely empathize. And by the way, I was in Embu at one point, and I said, this guy, if he's whoever who is holding him needs to release him at the point of his abduction. So, and also, I've spent most of my growing up in Embu. So there was and I know Billy's dad. So, I mean, I totally understand the pain. That's why I'm explaining this, is to tell you that abduction is just wrong. I mean, the handcuffs, immediately I got in the car, they had already handcuffed me. There's nothing I would do. I mean, they had already blindfolded me. They were already beating me with all manner of crude weapons. At one point, we stood, they opened the boot of the car, and they did this psychological thing. Anafungua mlango ya dere, huyo mwingine, au anafunga, ule mwingine anafungua, just to make you, for about a still of about 2 or 3 hours, you don't even, it's just psychological torture. So I am not saying Billy's or any other person who's undergone the same had a less experience. Absolutely not. I'm only saying that there has been, and you can go back to Nyayo torture chambers.
Yes.
There has been brutal reaction and we hope that as this goes on, other than the reduction of the torture, it should just end in totality. It should not happen to anyone. I would not wish it for everyone, for anyone. I would not even wish it for my worst enemy. Yeah.
Then turuke kidogo to August 11th 2022, election votes zinakauntiwa, ukapost on social media that Davis Chirchir alikuwa abducted. So uaga, do you feel any bad thing about spreading misinformation your time?
But there I didn't say Davis Chirchir has been abducted.
Alikuwa arrested or kidnapped at Bomas.
And that was true. He himself has told that story. Just go look at it. There's a friend of ours who by the way I was going to see on that other day when I was kidnapped. Called Githaya, Wanjoy Githaya. He's a public communications director at State House. They were with him. So there is first witness. There is original story. So my friend, it will be very difficult for you to get a position where I did misinformation. However, I've gotten it wrong.
Yes.
There's a time I put up a tweet that then spouse of the deputy president had gone to distribute food in Turkana, which was not true because those pictures were from long time ago. But when I saw that I had actually made a mistake, I deleted. Then I came back and said, guys, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Because in the business of publishing, it is okay to get it wrong. What is wrong is if you don't acknowledge and apologize. So when I get it wrong, I acknowledge and apologize. But on the incidences you've quoted so far, none of them places me on disinformation.
Yes. So, kozi inasemekanaga like within minutes, Kipchumba Murkomen took to social media to clarify that Chirchir was safe. Ansema within minutes.
Yeah,
so how fast was that?
First, remember, when I said it, it was 9 p.m. So it was on news. And then, of course, we had our social media thing. So within about 20-25 minutes, the guy who he was leaving Bomas. The guy who had already been held had already been released. Yeah. So it's factual. And by the way, after that, you remember there are several things that happened to even IBC officials who were kidnapped outside the gate. Some even were found after a day. So just go look at the whole thing and you'll find that there was actually an intentional thing at the time. I have no business with the misinformation. I find truth to be the best lie.
Okay, alafu sasa tukifast forward to after the court processes, William Ruto wins. He's declared the winner by now IBC, alafu later by the Supreme Court, yes? And one of the things I need to promise ni extrajudicial killings would end and abductions would end. And you understand? And I remember listening to that speech and I was like, damn, I think I even maybe nilipost nikasema like, if this guy does whatever he's saying, then this is going to be a very changed country. So kwa nini vitu zilisambaratika hivyo? Ikafika level ingine ile like everything he hated, he ended up being, at least according to the average Kenyan.
I don't know. I would want to look at whether or not during his tenure the abductions have gone down or gone up. I would need to look hard numbers.
Yes.
I would suspect that they have actually gone down drastically. I would hope that it would be zero. Unfortunately, as we are speaking, it's not a zero. It's a certain number, which is unfortunate. But when you look at absolute numbers, and I know people will have their own say on this, and I know it will be a blast on this, but I will have to say it. There has been a major reduction of what you'd call abductions, what you'd call extrajudicial killings. But I think for the president, the determination is that it should not go go on. It should not happen. That is the determination and the focus. But you see, beyond the president, then there are very many other bits below him that happen. But I know it's a work in motion, and I am confident that at the end of the tenure of President William Ruto, these things will be a thing of the past. Because I can see in private, he completely works hard for those things not to happen.
So
They
lakini
happen,
tunawezaiangalia from hii perspective kama mtoi wa CS anaweza abductiwa, saa sisi watoi wa raya kawaida. Remember pia Ruto akikuwa president ilikuwa the son of a nobody, so sisi ka the sons of nobodies. How safe are we if the son of a CS can be abducted? And you understand, like, and also how safe are we if someone like Itumbi, someone who went through this harrowing experience, can be in a government that's doing that even after the people around him have heard him talk about how it's one of the most horrific things? Because deep down, I don't think someone ever fully recovers from that. Have you ever fully recovered, like you feel safe all the time?
No, I had to do quite a number of changes. I mean, I had to, for first time, put security around my house. I had to do quite a number of changes. I had to how I drive, what cars, how much I change, how much I look at my side mirror and rear mirror to see who is behind, who is following. A lot of change. It's an unending thing. It's a full recovery thing. But let me look at this camera and say first, I am sincerely sorry for anyone who has undergone an abduction or an illegal arrest, because some of those things that were put as abductions are actually arrests, some of them illegal, some of them. So I would say I apologize for anyone who's undergone through that pain during the administration of President William Ruto. We sincerely sorry. Beyond the sorry, what we've done, like if you look for a while now, there has not been abductions and stuff. It's because you're trying to clean up the system and try and see where the weak points are, so that the responsibility can. Now, when you come and say, Dennis, I blame you for this, I can be able to say, yes, you blame me because I'm the one who is not. But it's been it's been a continuous workflow to ensure this doesn't happen. I am confident that we will get to a point where it's no longer an issue. So I would just say, guys who've been abducted before, I am sorry without any qualification. I am just sorry, and I wish you the very best as you try to recover and try to get back to your normal form.
Yeah, because maybe tukimalizia history abductions, one of the things that comes up is Deangui wa majuzi, the one who says he was hiding, but he had all the traits za Billy Mwangi. Goes with hair, anarudi bila nywele, stays incommunicado for a very long time, comes. Understand, this happens because nikiresearch nilifana this happened in June. So yes, we've had maybe 3 months of no abductions, but can we mwenyewe saizi unaweza comfortably say that times the abductions zimeisha Kenya? And kama zijaisha, then you have to tell us how powerful is a president when it comes to stopping abductions. Like, can your abduction be blamed on Uhuru? And can your abduction be blamed on Matiang'i? Then can a president abduction be blamed on Uhuru? On Ruto? And can it be blamed on Murkomen? Like, how powerful is the CS and the president?
So, let me start from where you started the question in terms of Deangui. Again, my sincere hope and prayer that the emotional trauma will evaporate and that he'll completely heal. And I do not want to go to the issues. But yes. Let's also know that there are abductions also and kidnapping that has been done also by criminals.
Yes.
Who then either demand ransom and some others demand other things, or because of family feuds. Like, I'm a big fan of these NTV murder tapes. Yes. When I watch Brian try to explain how they happened, I've seen abductions even between family members. So there are those abductions. But if you're talking about abductions that are led by
political, lakini.
No, I'm not aligning it to anyone. I've said on Deangui, I won't comment further. Okay. So I'm just explaining. On the issue of who is to blame for abductions, I think we sometimes look too much on who to blame. Why I say the abduction I suffered was because of those people I have mentioned, is because they went public and spoke about it and said it. In fact, one of them called me. Matiang'i called me. I even have his SMSs on my phone telling me he's going to deal with me. and he's going to ensure that I never post anything around his Roraka land thing, which he basically stole when he was a minister. He paid himself as a minister, knowing very well it belonged to the public. Basically, he bought public land using public money, which was already bought. It's a whole messy thing. And I kept saying it, and he wrote me texts. I have them. These are not things. So that's why this one, I allocate blame directly. There is a clear thing. I stood in court and said it. I told them to defend themselves. They declined.
So abduction yako ilikuwa based on the phrase Raka land thief, because I remember I used to use that phrase.
Yes, that was one. That was one of the issues. When the abductors were with me, they spoke of, why do you continue supporting William Ruto? Why are you going after Uhuru Kenyatta's government? And they specifically kept mentioning, this thing of Raka land. So I mean, I have no doubt in my mind, at least from the evidence that is available to me, both on my phone and with the abductors I was with, who had ordered the abductions.
Maybe digress kidogo, this Roraka land thing, because I remember I watched a documentary and I remember seeing some old mzee who owns like a piece of that land. So how does Matiang'i come in? Because I remember the land was worth 1.5 billion, yes?
3 billion.
3 billion.
What was paid was 1.5.
Yes.
Listen, 2017, people are busy campaigning. It's almost election time in August. Under the act, only the minister can give approval for sale of land.
Yes.
The minister for education then. It's because this was an education land.
Oh, okay.
So Matiang'i actually signs, and I have those letters. By the way, this matter went to the Supreme Court for an advisory opinion. EACC conducted a full investigation. And the conclusion by the Supreme Court was that Matiang'i initiated that transfer. So where does Matiang'i come in? They are the ones, this land is now public land. How did it become public land? It was bought from Roraka and made into a primary school. I think 2 primary schools there exist, primary and high school. We need to check what exact schools. Then when Matiang'i was Minister for Education, decided, let's buy this land to build these schools. Yet we had already bought the land long time ago. So we are now buying it again. And the government is buying the land from itself, but it goes to personal pockets. It was 3 billion. Fortunately, by the time elections were over and it was spotted for it to be stopped, only 1.5 billion had been transferred. 1.5 billion had not been transferred. So Matiang'i was at the heart of it. And the Supreme Court has confirmed.
Alafu pia it goes back to ile kitu kwa nauliza juu ya presidential powers. If there's all this evidence, overwhelming evidence, why is this money never recovered? Because if I was to quote Okiya Omtata, yosemaga, no country can survive if the looters retire in peace.
Absolutely. Now, I would want us to have another podcast. Then I'll tell you why, especially the Roraka land was saved. And it is part of those people who are out there shouting about how they will stop corruption. And I know you're asking me, so what? So if you have all that thing, why are you not prosecuting those guys?
Yes.
So now we passed a constitution. We gave ourselves a constitution in 2010, which basically separated the powers of the president and the powers of the investigative agencies. Not even the president can call EACC to tell them to act. Not even the president can call the DPP and tell them who to charge. In fact, the constitution says the DPP cannot take instructions from anyone. So the president may wish that all these things are handled, but those offices must act independently across those cases. The EACC has a file of investigation of Roraka land. They should just prosecute it, in my view.
Yes.
Yeah, they should just implement what they have. They should forward, the DPP must have had that file. Prosecute the guys who are involved.
Yeah. So, Paul, funny enough, I was looking for a certain post nikuonyeshe. But, so are you saying that no presidential candidate can promise to end corruption? Is that what we're getting?
Ending corruption is also a perceptive issue.
Yes.
So how hard you push, you've seen the president push for instance, for Shah, the guys who are involved in the fraud, for investigations to be done by the ministry on who is doing this thing. But at the point when the ministry hands over the file to DCI, that's the end. There's nothing else. There's absolutely nothing else. Fortunately, like in that case, the investigation is so well done. So recently you saw people, I think it was yesterday, people were in court over those fraud issues. Part of the people given in the files.
Yes.
So beyond, the president keeps on pushing these bits, but now what happens after the push is a matter that squarely rests on EACC, DPP, police because they are the investigative agencies. The president has no investigative agency at State House, but yes, he has a role to put out a clear impression. That's why when he got in, the first thing he did is digitize government. That in itself, and you know the stories that came out of it, in itself moved government collection digitally from 30 million to 1 billion a day. That's the amount of money that we are losing as a country. Now it's already being found. So I mean, corruption is also how innovative you
how
can
much?
30 million a day to 1 billion a day.
You need through which, Nini?
E-citizen
Yes.
collection a day.
But
Got
hiyo e-citizen although kabla tubongeta juu ya e-citizen kwa nataka uone vile umesema the president has like limited control ya hizi organs. Uliona hii the meme that was going around ya DCI ya happy customer.
At a customer week.
Yeah.
Yeah, memes is a currency in this country.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Kenyans have a right to create and view institutions as they present themselves. But we must give it up to the current DCI head, Mr. Amin. There's an issue that has been disturbing us called wash.
Yes.
If you look at the amount of stuff he has saved foreigners on gold here over the last, in his tenure, he's managed to deal with that permanently. He's managed to deal with the investigations around, helping police with the banditry, because you have to do an investigation, find out where they are, to help them to deal with it. He's managed to create a DCI that is professional. We had a DCI that was comical in the past. I mean, there had even press conferences that were bordered on comedy. I don't know whether Africa has a comedy section, because that guy bordered there. But we have now a professional DCI. There may be mistakes that have been done around DCI, some oversights. Maybe we blame them for abductions. There must be stuff that's allocated to them that is wrong. But we also have to give them their flowers where they exist. But as we give them flowers, it's also to say that where we think they are wrong, for them to quickly correct. I mean, now you can do your certificate of good conduct 90% online and get it within a specified period. Unlike in the past when we had queues at DCI going all the way for people as a queue to get a DCI certificate. So I mean, there has been changes that have been done there. We can easily lose them if we only focus on one aspect of things.
Because vile umebonga juu ya DCI, of course, one of the things that comes to mind was the Albert Ojwang cover-up. Kumbuka the way that cover-up was, understand? Like, these guys, anatolewa nyumbani, tunaambiwa amejigonga kwa kichwa, mpaka akajiua, then eventually tunasikia hizi stories zote za Muhwana was sent a message by Talam akiambiwa this guy needs to be punished on behalf of Mkubwa. And now comes story ya Mkubwa, where Kenyans felt that the president protected Mkubwa. What can you say about that? By Mkubwa this time, I mean DIG Lagat.
No, I don't think the president shielded anyone on that investigation. In any case, the president, I don't even remember him commenting on that issue.
No, of course he won't comment.
He commented and said there must be full investigations and full action. Then what was the action that was done? There was let's be fair, there is what is discussed on social media, but let's also discuss the reality. An investigation was done. People were found culpable of doing the act. That matter is in court. There is evidence forwarded in court by DCI, because it's DCI that is investigated, and IPOA. IPOA then employs DCI officers to do the investigation, or their own means to do the investigation. So those files are now in court, fully investigated with who was culpable across the line of chain. Now, if anyone else had any other evidence of what went on there, it's still open to do even a private prosecution, which myself have tried, against Rolaka land. I didn't know too much, but so I lost along the way. But I mean, it is in terms of investigation, it was done as ordered by the president, up to IPOA. And guys who are suspended, guys who are arrested, there is a matter in court.
Your suspension, ndio tulikamkulan baadaye, that when we thought Lagat was on suspension, he was actually on leave.
Yeah, he was sent because the law doesn't provide for a suspension. If you go to the Police Act, you can only send him on compulsory leave. So in essence, it was suspension, but you can't call it suspension in the law. You call it compulsory leave for the investigation to be done. If the law allowed, we would have done everything that the law allows.
But
also pia Mwafrika,
yes.
Fike point, ukidhani Deno alichapa Ian, useme Deno ashikwe, then you investigate and find out ni Butita actually alichapa Ian. So you see then you'll have a disadvantage Deno on a case that was not there. Let's also allow investigations to be done.
I don't dispute that. Like one of the people we both admire ni Brian Obuya. And we remember like when we had this conversation with Brian Obuya, he debunked a lot of theories that had come up. And I remember the one part tuli disagree na yeye because he only debunked your story that he was killed in a forest. You remember all those stories that had come out? But the only part tuli enter different paths na yeye. Ama nili disagree with his analysis when we were talking about Lagat. And I remember telling him, I'd want Kenya to be this country where tribe means nothing. But tribe still means something in this country. And since tribe means not something, Lagat is atapatikana kiwa mweupe kama pamba. And
no, I don't think it was anything to do. In fact, when I'm dealing with public officers, I don't look at what language they speak. I can tell you, one of the most excellent police officers by track record is Eliud Lagat. Forget about what we hear here, and I challenge you to go and check out about how he's risen.
That can be true, but it can be true, but then he has a thin skin. Because remember this, the post was supposedly had been written, he makes 100 million a month from Cindy of police corruption. And then the guy who allegedly posted that ends up dying. And when he's dying, one of the things that we hear is aliambua, mkubwa amesema huyu mtu akuwe disciplined. So who can be mkubwa than Talam? You understand? Has to be someone higher than Talam. But naelewa pia wewe mwenyewe sitaki kukuput in a difficult situation.
No, mimi niko tayari. Ask any tough question.
You understand why everything is pointing at him. And if everything is pointing at you, the prudent thing to do would be to step aside.
And that's what happened.
But he steps aside for 2 weeks and then he was back.
But the case is still... The investigation ended in 2 weeks and the people were arrested and put in court. There was nothing implying him. Why should he continue being out? That's what I'm calling fairness. You ask for a process, the process ends, it doesn't find you culpable. Then you still want that guy to be out. Why?
Ushaisikiaga nini? Because I'm sure you are well read and also you are very political. Have you ever had the phrase that a lot of people who tell you to go through the system know how the system works and they know they can manipulate the system? That's why they always ask you to go through the system. Have you ever heard that?
Absolutely. But I've also heard a lot of people who ask you to go through the system believe you can be innocent. And there are many cases. We had Bill Clinton, president of the US, who was accused with Monica Lewinsky. As a whole system was done until he survived the impeachment. We had Richard Nixon under Watergate scandal. A process was done and he resigned from office after the process found him culpable. I'm sure I've used US examples. We have had Kenyan examples. We've had Achuka blamed for the death of Ouko. Process was done. We had Ezekiah Oyugi. Process was done. Biwott was even arrested over that and put in prison, and he was a very powerful minister. In very many situations, sometimes when we decide to do a digital crowd chase, we go after someone, sometimes rightfully so, sometimes wrongfully so. It is good to admit sometimes that yes, we thought this is the guy who did it, but the process shows he's not the guy. There's a court process going on. Witnesses who are with Ojwang,
yes,
inside there have recorded statements. I don't know what it was. I think a lot has not been told about that story, and yes. I encourage you to put a kind of a reporter in that case. You'll be surprised at what you found. I found in my office, and I've never said this, I found that in my office, part of that campaign was done by guys who are on my payroll.
Which campaign?
Who are part of my, in that campaign that you're referring to against Lagat.
And then arrest Eliud Lagat?
No, not even arrest. The one for before that now, the one that people claim then led to this guy being arrested. I'm forgetting that hashtag, I'll get it. But that hashtag against Lagat then had some people within the office running it. Because for some reason, they were doing a side hustle. So they did that campaign not knowing where it's ending up. So in fact, I can even tell you today, for the first time, that actually... No, but let me not go there. Let the court process handle
okay,
it. I wanted to... I almost told you something that would have made a big debate here, but let me leave it at that.
Kwa kuuliza ile swali ya rais, but they are alive, right?
Eh?
Wako alive?
the people who
former
participated in
employee.
that campaign.
Yeah.
A lot of people who did that hashtag. There were about 60 people who participated. Some here, some who I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
59 of them are alive, yes.
Yes. Okay. Another thing sasa niwataka kubonga juu yake 2024 happens, yes, and 2024 is very interesting because I remember when I looked at the June 18th protests I was like, damn, this is interesting. I've never seen Kenyans wakiwa nje hivi. Then nyinyi, like, how did you look at the June 18th protests? Because by that time kila mtu anasema reject finance bill. What was the mood within the presidential circle, especially considering that wewe, as I was saying before, you're someone who understands youth affairs and youth stuff. So vile mlicheki hii movement imeanza 18th tao imejaa, what was the first reaction? Mliona mafala wajui kilo wanataka ama, because that's how it felt.
I was personally very impressed.
Yes.
I mean, it was matron protest, water, some selfies, some content creation. Absolutely good pressure for any government to try and push government to adopt a certain way that people thought was the right way.
Yes.
It was flawless and nice. I think I even shared the protest and saying, Kenyan protests have completely been redefined. Actually, before that, 6 months before that, I was the then Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was fighting me because my message I was taking around was generational change. And I was saying, there is a shift on how generations are handling protests,
Yes.
meetings, parties. And we need to, even politics is undergoing a generational shift. So we need to embrace generational change. And I remember he called me into a meeting and he really went after me in the presence of the president and Ndindi Nyoro.
Yes.
He had called both of us and was accusing us of fighting him. So, and I remember even after that, he tried to fight me at Eldoret State Lodge.
Yes.
So yes, by the time this whole movement started, this was something to be encouraged, and people we were all agreed that this kind of protest needs to be, people need to be shown how to protest, and this is how to protest.
Okay.
Calmly, without destroying property, make your point, then go home, because that's what the Constitution provides. Free, any person is allowed to protest peaceably and unarmed. So this was the perfect kind of demonstration.
Okay, then 20th happens, Rex Masai is shot. And nyinyi, because after 20th, Rex Masai kakuwa shot on 20th, then I think Billy Simani, aka Crazy Nairobian, is abducted on the 21st. So, what was your reaction when you had now...
Crazy Nairobian is arrested. I am among the first people to tweet for his release.
Yes.
It's that record is still there, available on X. 20th stopped being that peaceful and unarmed protest.
20th.
20th.
We're not talking about 25th. 20th.
So what I know how the generation of that happened is then there was infiltration. Politicians found a place, what I would call some rogue politicians, found a place to infiltrate these demos. And therefore now they brought in their guys to do what you'd call the rough rogue demos. I don't know whether this is... No, 25th is the day now people now get into parliament.
Yes.
And those CCTVs are available. I have personally watched them. It's crazy what some people did on that point. I know there is an inquest going on Rex Masai, who from a naked eye I see was peacefully demonstrating.
And running away.
And I mean, for me, I find that was unfortunate. However, inside parliament, the first place some guys go to is the armory of the military, and they pick some weapons there.
Yes.
So, I mean, at that point, and then elsewhere, the shops have started people have started going into shops. You see, there's still an older, what you describe as a Kenyan, who is an older sister of all of us. So
Yes.
in terms of age.
Yes.
And she had taken a loan, and she was now losing property. I think started the shop like a week before, and now she was back to zero. Her kids were now out of school and everything. Nothing justifies death.
Yes. You I think Apo, we both agree on that.
So now the protest changed from what we had seen to a violent protest. So that degeneration is what from my eyes and my view quickly changed from the original idea to something else.
But tunajua polisi wanafaa kuwa hapo. Okay, but wacha turuke 20th. Let's go to 25th. So by the time 25th, okay, not even 25th, let's go to 22nd. So 22nd is the infamous TikTok space. And I think with that TikTok space, I think in way uli make mistake, ulijoin kama Ruto, lafu katoka. Sijui kama ndio handle your account. But someone joined as the president and then left. And I remember Murkomen joined, like a lot of you people muli join. Kwa nini hamku feel the need to de-escalate the situation at that point? Because the mood with, I think 20th and 18th had already taught us that online and ground tofauti ni kidogo sana. Because for a very long time ilikuwaga online, I think ndi alikuwa natuitaga digital wankers, like people wako online, there's nothing they're doing. So why not de-escalate? Because I felt like the government haiku de-escalate the situation. Ilikuwa zile za, we know what's good for you and respectfully you need to shut the fuck up. Do you feel like that's what mlikuwa mnatuambia? Because 22nd was bad. You remember that Twitter space?
I think I interacted in that Twitter space. Unfortunately, at the time we were also not listening to each other.
Yes.
The guys on the space were not listening, and we were also unfortunately not listening. So everybody was talking and shouting, so it became a marketplace without moderation. So it became that you couldn't even engage. I mean, I got into spaces sometimes and guys removed me only for it, the same people who are removing me to say, now we need to talk, you know. So, but I don't blame them. I mean, no one was listening. Government was not listening. The other side was not listening. So I think it took a bit of time for us to get into a space where we were going to listen. I think, yes, there are lessons we learned. Yes, there are opportunities to de-escalate. And yes, as you have seen now, as in the movement into the future, there has been methods of interaction. I mean, even today I've sat here with university students. I mean, there are methods of coming together now to talk, to listen, to be told. I mean, even on the university student-centered model, we even did a committee where we appointed those student university leaders to sit down and with government and try and come up with what is right. So yes, we have learned. It's unfortunate that we have to get there to start listening to each other, but we have learned. We've known how to integrate ourselves and how to ensure that we are able to listen to each other. So yes.
Ekonene, nimeinterrupt show kukuremind juu ya Lemfi. Kama uko US ama Canada na unataka kutuma do Kenya, register kwa Lemfi ukitumia promo code Ekonene. Hii itakuguarantee $20 cashback on your first $100 transaction. Alafu pia time una register, make sure umetick the 2 check boxes za notifications ndio ukireceive info about amazing offers through newsletters. Na pia usijali, Lemfi hawatumagi hizi letters za, yani unajua like ma messages za kipumbavu. Pia usisahau, every time una transact $50 and above una earn points. Na the more una transact, the more points you earn and you can redeem them as cash ile time unatuma pesa. Alafu pia kitu nanibamba kabisa ni saizi ukitumia Lemfi unabaki umelipa pay bills na till numbers directly. That means unabaki umehandle bills za maparo wako ukiwa hizo maside za States ama maside za Canada. Alafu pia wewe mwenyewe as a Lemfi user baki umetafuta ile button imeandikwa get USD $20, ubaki umeinvite mabeste zako, na ukiinvite mabeste zako on their first $100 transaction unapata pesa ngapi? $20 cashback. So unangoja nini? Baki umechangamka, ingia Lemfi. Lemfi, international payments for everyone. Ekonene. 25th
Lessons.
24th usiku mulikuwa, what did you guys expect to happen on 25th? Because by I think 25th ilikuwa hiyo story ya Occupy Parliament. So that's going forward. A lot of Kenyans are saying they are going to show up. I think it was the biggest protest ever. Mi ilikuwa the first protest nimeenda duniani. Tulikuwa na Ian, tulikuwa na Best to Rapture. We met a lot of our friends, Robo, tulikuwa na akina Shix Kapienga walikuwa hapo. You remember, like, tulimit na wase wengi sana. Like, town was full. And then, of course, people end up breach Parliament. And Parliament, I think one of the things that we always forget is Parliament was ongoing and walikuwa na pass your bill even as the protests were happening. And I think it's tulikuwa na Uruoba, and Uruoba said that maybe the previous night they tried to de-escalate. They were trying to say like the level of disinformation out there ni kubwa sana, maybe we need to change 1 or 2, 3 things. But on the other side, I remember, I think ni Kimani Kuria, itago hivyo ama Kuria Kimani, one of the you know the guy, I remember alikuwa na zile za tutafanya kile tunataka kufanya Ekonene. kwani mwafili hiyo attitude like wase wako inja wana protest wase wanatrai kuingia, why still provoke them to that level? Because at some point it becomes a provocation.
No, let's be fair. On 25th, there was the protest was infiltrated. It doesn't matter what was going to happen.
But it was mostly innocent Kenyans. If there were 200 goons, for every one goon, there was 200 innocent Kenyans.
Yeah, that is why you were not there when you didn't get into the breach of parliament.
Yes, parliament, of course.
Yeah, so that tells you there was the line that started the push around the Uhuru Highway to get in were purely goons that were gotten in to make the final push, to make it, a revolution. And you remember there was even a whole deputy president waiting for all that to happen, take advantage somewhere in Mombasa. So, there was a whole organization. It was planned. There was spontaneous by the time we were doing 1820th. There was spontaneous, very cool protests, spontaneous. People called each other on Twitter. They appeared. But by the time we get to the 5th, planning was done by politicians to bring people. Money was allocated. People were put in buses. They were brought in. These are not things I'm guessing. I know for a fact.
Hiyo lakini bus yote kusi tulikuwa katikati ya tao.
So no people were actually bussed. People were bussed actually up to even to South Sea. Then they moved out and walked into town. These are facts, by the way. They have even admitted some of the people who were arrested and charged in court actually admitted in court. So
because
the coverage the way the coverage was done, it was focused on a certain narrative. I encourage fortunately court records are public. So I encourage you. During that time, people were taken to court, right? Who were arrested.
Yes.
Go check what they told court.
Because mi naweza kuambia, like one of the people who was shot, alikuwa niko nini fan, was called David Chege. And David Chege used to be like an IT guy. Na tuko 100% sure him, even when he was trying to occupy parliament. Because he alishutiwa akitembea towards nini. He had a bottle of water and whatever. He was not a goon. Understand? You also acknowledge that there were innocent Kenyans who actually felt, because Kindiki is on record saying that the way we keep pushing Kenyans, one day they shall come for this parliament. He's on record saying that. So can we also accept the fact that there were innocent Kenyans who felt pushed to the wall and felt like breaching parliament and getting politicians was the right thing to do?
Absolutely. That's what I started by saying. That I acknowledged the start of the demos. Even on 25th, there were very innocent Kenyans who were there because they wanted a certain changes. You were there, he was there. I saw my friends, Abel.
Yes. Hata tulikuwa na jemu ule mse kabla join gava.
So all those, I even had a cousin in that bit. So there were innocent Kenyans who were not goons. I am not in any way saying there were no innocent Kenyans. It was all goons everywhere, no. But once a protest is infiltrated, the police also have a duty to protect. So, in terms of was the protest fully innocent? You also admit it wasn't.
Okay. For me, ukiniuliza 25th was fully innocent. Me, when it changed was 26th or 27th. One of the ile times sasa mleta military, a lot of people started going into kiosks. Because 25th, one of the strangest things about 25th, of course we ungekuja hapo ingekuwa very hostile for you, but one of the strangest things were cars were packed kwa streets and people were not breaking into cars. This was on the 25th.
Yeah, some of them were.
But by 27th, people were breaking into cars, people breaking into shops, people breaking into... So kiniambia 27th was infiltrated. That one I'll fully understand. Yeah, 25th, I think it depends with who you're talking to. If you're talking to the government, it was infiltrated. If you're talking to watu tulikuwa kwa ground, it was just angry people. Because we remember hearing just normal Kenyans wakisema, hiki tu situingie parliament kuzaa mafala hatusikiagi. Wacha tuende parliament. Unacheki. And even that's the time that even someone who's joined the government right now, Oguda alikuwa na post zile za Kindiki. Me, that's when I heard Kindiki saying that one day parliament will be invaded because Kenyans are tired. So I think that's the one place maybe tunaweza disagree. By 25th, I don't think it will go infiltrated. By 27th, I was one of the people. Even I'm accused of having been paid because nilikuwa nikiambia say no. We can't keep protesting. 25th, we got what we wanted. The president came out on 26th, akasema tusiendele. So 27th, tukaeni home. So hapo kwanza hiyo time nikaanza, umelipwa. But 25th, I think even kakundi watu walikuwa paid, I think it's maybe 0.5%. Otherwise, it was innocent Kenyans kwa hizo streets.
Okay, well,
and they were
but you're aware on 25th, shops were broken into. You're also aware on 25th that there are people who lost quite a number of property. On 25th, not 27th. You also, but let's not get into what I don't want us to do. There are people who were arrested, went to court. They gave details of how they were hired, who paid them. They were in court, and that's public record. And those people actually admitted how they were mobilized for the space. So that is not in contention. It's on record, and it's admissions by people who were actually just getting to court to be charged. So they had the option to say, no, I was protesting for what was right.
Tukisearch your court record research aje ndio tuweze kusearch at least tuonyeshe
for the court records and those bits. What you do, you go to the court registry. But most of them are charged at Milimani and Kibera.
Yes.
You'll be able to get the statements that they made.
Okay.
But now you said that the government is trying to work towards abductions and extrajudicial killings. But now again, one of the things that actually spark extrajudicial killings is excessive force from the police. And we have the president on record say, do not shoot to kill, just shoot a specific part of the body. Is that part of maybe some of the things that you're working on?
So the
even is like Rex Masai.
Research special.
Yes, Rex Masai was shot on the leg. Does autopsy say that?
Yeah, I think alikuwa shoot. Ali bled out. So even shooting a specific part of the body does not mean that ukishutwa mguu you cannot utakufa because if it's an
so
artery.
Has the government actually, found out a way to, integrate the police on how to handle crowds moving forward? Because this is not the last protest in Kenya. I'm not saying in this government.
So protests that are peaceful and guys come unarmed, I am sure government is going to ensure. I think I've seen 2 or 3 protests that there has been. I think it was teachers or is it doctors or intern doctors who are out on the streets. No one bothered. No one. There was no police shootings stuff. So peacefully unarmed, that one has no problem. And they actually occupied Afia House, Ministry of Health, and sat outside, and there was no activity going on, but there was no shooting. So I think government are working on ways to ensure that you can be able to protest, express your right, and be able to go home. On the issue of police are allowed to shoot, actually, to kill, under the law. On 3 circumstances, I don't know, but just go read the Police Act, but I know at least one incident is when the police officer's life is in danger. So like if you invade a police station today, in fact, I think there's a saying in almost all our Kenyan languages, you can't throw a stone into a police station. So if you've invaded a police station where there is armory, so there are weapons, obviously, you'll be shot dead.
I don't think 25th kuna mtu invade police station because 25th, if you talk about 25th.
That's a question about the future.
Yes.
So I was trying to paint for him the future and the law.
Okay.
Then police are also allowed under the Police Act to shoot to kill. For instance, if there are people there who are engaged in threatening the life of others. For instance, Dusit. There's a terror attack. Police are allowed to shoot to kill. So there are circumstances, about 3 of them, which allow police to shoot to kill. And also, if you get into protected areas like State House, barracks, or the army,
I think
the parliament, those are protected areas under the law, and therefore police are allowed to shoot to kill. And that is in the law. This is not something that I'm saying, and you need to go check the Police Act.
He agrees with you on that.
Yeah,
I think the main thing ilikuwa hii, when a president comes out and says, piga watu risasi ya mguu, so not it gives the police a very
but he spoke about a police station invasions, then he said kuja shoot kwa mguu. That was the context. Just go listen to the video.
Because your police station, there was Murkomen who said angusha 10-15 alafu nitakutetea. You remember that was kill, that was not shoot in the leg.
But that's the law.
After the outrage ndio kulikuwa na your story. So okay, I guess that's the law. But now, one of the things that happened kwa hizo protest is, after the protest happened, the president called Mother wa Kennedy Onyango and promised that he'd follow up on the story. Then we watched her a year later saying the president never talked to her again.
Thank you very much, Mofrika, for bringing that up, because I think I've really resisted from responding to a mother who appears still to be in anguish. So I've really restrained myself not to respond to the issue, despite people tagging me and telling me, I am actually the one who made that call.
To her?
To her.
Yes.
And I told her, I introduced myself. Then I told her, the president would want to speak to you, because the president had told me, I have read about this mother who is, please look for her, let me talk to her. So I'm the one who made the call. Then I took a bit of time, because I didn't get her for like 6 hours. When I finally got her on phone,
Yes.
I went to the president and said, I've gotten her.
Yes.
And it was on loudspeaker, so I could hear the conversation. So she said, the president asked, mimi nikufanyie nini?
Yes.
And the lady was crying. Was a bit actually hysterical, and I would understand why. And she said, I would want you to give me the body of my son I go and bury.
Yes.
So the president asked, what do you mean the body? Then she said, my husband has taken the body.
Yes.
So me, all I want is to get the body to go and bury. So the president said, I'll make sure that I'll follow. In fact, the president didn't he said, I'll follow up on that.
Yes.
So she's correct on saying I follow up. It's a context that she unfortunately wrongly quotes.
Yes.
So she said, I will follow up on that. The president disconnected that call and asked me to call the IG of police, because the president didn't have his phone. So I called the IG of police, and the president asked, what's this issue? Then the IG of police explained that there is a family feud, and the matter has, the other part of the family has gone to court and they have gotten orders. So he told the president, what I will do, because already there's a feud that is in court, the best I can do is to make sure nobody gets the body. So the IG of police said he had stopped the body from going to anyone. And after that, there was a long court case, which was eventually won by the mother. And the mother managed to bury the child. There was no other request. And by the way, that call was not made only in my presence and the president. There were very many people in that room.
But I think what she meant also, so she didn't ask for justice. She didn't ask for, because remember the kid was unarmed. He was 12 years old. He was
absolutely nothing was asked for. And for justice, the president had already addressed the issue and explained what was going to happen. And not to her, to the country. To her, she just needed the body, and everything she asked for the body, she essentially got. So I find it, I don't know where it comes from. But if there's something that she needs now, we're still open for engagement. But it's unfortunate that she puts in the wrong narrative.
Yeah. Then Bridget Njoki Majuzi gets killed when she's in the house.
Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
So why doesn't the president ever address these things?
He does. The president was among the people who actually spoke to the family. He does, and even sent people to the family at their homestead. He does. The president doesn't leave, even if he understands that if he goes in public, you probably tell him off and that stuff. He ensures that it's also done in private. He never leaves it out. He does.
And saizi mpaka leo tujui ni nani alidedisha Njoki. So I don't
it's an active
think
investigation. I'm sure you know about investigations that ran for a long time also, partly because it's also a complex investigation to get exactly what it is. So the investigation is on. Unfortunately, before I came to this podcast, I didn't know that would be an issue. I would have called to find out where it is.
Yes.
But offline, as you edit this, I'll let you know where the investigation is. I'm sure, no one, not the president, not the IG of police, would want such a case to go cold. They would want to know who did it, why, was it intentional?
Okay.
What was it? Did someone, it's wrong. There's a kid who deserved to live and enjoy her life. It's unfortunate.
So tumeanza na kifo, wacha tuende kitu lighter kiasi. But one of the things that also happened the president joined a Twitter space. I think it was much, much late after the protest. And one of the things that people talked about was opulence and the way that opulence is annoying. And one of the things nizasema jia the Ruto government is the show of opulence is so much that sometimes mushindwa, how desensitized are you guys at the top? And mtaichukua that it's an issue, but you have to understand that people who are online see what happens in other countries. Majuzi ilikuwa which country ile a son was seen celebrating happy birthday alafu the father had to
Nepal.
Wacha Nepal.
Was it Mongolia?
Kuna moja ile where the son was seen celebrating a birthday somewhere and the people on the ground are suffering. And people ended up protesting because the father resigned because of that. So you have to understand that the people online are seeing that. So when we see the president, okay, let's start. Tunaona cabinet secretaries, red bottom shoes. Ishungwa, Shongwa, someone I expect to be sharp, goes to a show, Mehdi Hassan, who's very confrontational with red bottom shoes. I see the president, red bottom shoes. I see the president's shirt, and his shirt is $1,500. And I'm there thinking, like, you run a country where there are people who will never earn $1,500 for the rest of this period. Kwani nyufanya hizo vitu? And why do you think that a president has to wear expensive clothes to look presidential? Like, where did that come from? Because I've seen it more with the Kenya Kwanza government than Uhuru Kenyatta. If you come to your extravagance.
My friend, I think you need to go back to those videos and tell me. Anyway, let's not go to who wears more expensive.
Picha moja Uhuru akiona red bottom. I'll shake your hand.
Absolutely.
Just one picture of Uhuru wearing red bottoms.
You see, my friend, first of all, in terms of opulence, there was a point that the Kenyan public was making, which I also agree with, in terms of show of opulence. But you can't tell me a person who's worked as an assistant minister, a minister, a deputy president, and president cannot really afford to wear a certain shirt. Let me just go. I'm making a certain point.
Yes.
You also expect a president to be surrounded by a certain form of coverage. So, for instance, the cameras that the technology around the president needs to be the best technology you have available if he has to deal with the threats that are available and be able to address the issues that come up. So again, he has to get the best in the market. In the same way, I would not expect us, but now at our level, there is no point of showing the opulence. I mean, in private, I mean, I've struggled, man. I've gone through the system. I had a cattle. I sold coffee in those cattle-driven carts. I came to Nairobi. I lived in Mukuru. No one. I didn't come here knowing William Ruto or Uhuru Kenyatta. I didn't even expect to ever know them when I came.
Yes.
But somehow, because of skilling and because of networking, I managed to get to where I was. Surely you can't tell me I can't afford an iPad, or I can't afford an iPhone 17 Pro Max.
Tumi, kabla tuendelee, umehepa swali yangu. Hakuna mtu ana dispute president anaweza afford. But just because you can afford does not mean you should do. Politics also about optics. Before I asked you that, nimajuzi president ameenda Ethiopia and he was wearing his $1,000 blah 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 dollar shades. And before I commented on that, I had to literally Google and see Obama and look at what's the most expensive thing Obama shaitokea nayo. Obama aliapia na $450 Ray-Bans. You can Google, and there was an outrage. People are like, damn. And this is America. Forget America, the economy of America is how many times bigger than Kenya. And wasa walikuwa wanauliza Obama, like, utavaa Ray-Bans za $450 na sisi hatuwezi kuafford groceries. So the same thing nauliza, mi sijakata rais avae Stefano Ricci. Because yende lifanya nikajua Stefano Ricci. Shida yangu ni, when we have educated Kenyans seeing you doing that, they feel like you'd rather wear your expensive stuff. Because you can just wear vitu hatujui ni expensive and we'll still respect you. You're still the president. And like your deputy president, he never used to wear this expensive stuff. So now that's where people connect dots who are like, msee akiwa deputy, you're still a billionaire. Hakuwa anavaa hizi vitu. Saizi akiwa rais, anavaa hizi vitu expensive. Understand? Do you understand the politics is optics?
So I've just googled Obama's watch.
Yes.
A Rolex Cellini 5009. This is 2023.
Yes,
5th November, 2nd November 2023.
Yes.
$15,400.
Okay. Google ya Ruto, utapata ni 4 times that.
But Ruto doesn't care about watches. I mean, he doesn't give a damn about watches.
Si usiona nazo.
I mean, if you bring him a watch to wear, he'll wear. I can tell you for a fact, he doesn't give a damn about watches. And that I'm telling you as both his employee. I don't know whether what you saw was a gift or it's a watch that he bought, but what I can tell you from relating with him, if you're telling me about shoes, and I've not commented about your suits and shoes, I've commented directly about the watch. Tells you it's something that I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, he doesn't
but
give a damn. I mean, he also wears. I'll give you photos of him wearing a watch that basically is neither nor there. I mean,
hapo nitafikiria ni akiwa deputy, akiwa president.
No, even when he's president.
When he's president, yes. I've only seen him with very expensive stuff.
Absolutely not. You see, now it is a mind conditioning. So when you look at him, for instance, I'm wearing this shoe. If you Google this shoe, you find it's 175,000. Yeah? But my plug delivered this shoe for less than that by far.
So wacha nikuulize.
Is it out there? So if you take this shoe and Google it, you'll get the wrong
Sindo
price.
kitu nataka kuuliza Itumbi.
Yeah.
Basi wacha nikuulize hivi.
Plug wangu manzeni msee wa nguvu sana. Ukamu ni connect kwa plug.
Ndio nakwambia kabla tuende kwa president. Kwa nini you feel lazima mva hizi vitu expensive? Because do you know it's mostly African leaders. Like if you compare the way African leaders portray themselves and the way first world leaders portray themselves. Majuzi tulikuwa na uboy anaitwa nani? Tulikuwa na Amenya. And Amenya was talking about how in France, politicians are not allowed to show any opulence. Like that can take your career from here to... So, saizi umepigilia viatu za 175.
No. That's what I've told you.
In example, ama... Because when umesema...
Nimekwambia ukigoogle, because you said the first thing you do is Google. Ukigoogle, itakupatia 175,000. Nimekwambia plug wangu wana deliver under 10,000 shillings.
So, namaanisha ni bootleg ya China.
Yeah.
Which, there's no problem. Ikiwa ni bootleg ya China hakuna shida, but za rais niko sure si bootleg ya China because nishona the red bottom shoes. Rais alifanya mpaka I was joking.
I want to buy you a red bottom shoe that is below the prices you're thinking about.
Hiyo sasa itakuwa bootleg. The president does not wear bootlegs.
You see now, so it's a framing of the mind. He does actually. He has plugs. Let me tell you a story. And this is the last story I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So sasa nimeona watu wangu pia wameanza kuweka pressure ya the next meeting. But I'll tell you a story. One day, GSU wamewithdrawiwa na Matiang'i kwa akiwa deputy president.
Yes.
So wakatoka, then a peace came in. So wakatoka na vitanda zao kwa hizo rooms walikuwa. So there were no beds for the guys who were coming in. So akaniambia go look for 18 beds because there were 18 cops coming in. Akaniambia usitafute ati expensive beds, tafuta 2 beds watu wanaweza lalia. So nikaenda nikafanya kitu yangu, nikapata bedza at least fair enough that a comfortable 5 Gs.
Yes.
So that's around 90 Gs plus mattress na duvets na everything. So nikakuja kwake, nikamwambia nimepata vitanda, I need 90 Gs to buy those beds. Kaniambia I think I say wanaacha nipigie plug wangu. So akaitisha simu yake, kapigia jamaa wake, he's carpenter. Kampigia kamwambia hapana bana, mimi bana nataka vitanda 18 of them pesa ngapi? So mtu wake akamwambia 65. So fortunately plug wangu pia mimi so mtani alikuwa less. So that's how we ended up buying those beds. So the president actually buys those things and he has guys in that Juakali sector who actually deliver to him stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's not say, and I'm not disputing the fact that he probably has priced the items. I mean,
why wear them? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you live in the digital age, lazima ucontrol hiyo kitu. So like majuzi tuko tuna joke juu ya Aaron Cheriot because after president na Joho wanikana na red bottoms, Aaron alitembea na zake, alikuwa na make sure lazima tuone ni red bottom. And from the outside looking in, I'm there like, you don't need to do that. You're ready for the president. You're this boy from Sugoi who ended up having a job that only the privileged few on earth will ever have that. Like in this country called Kenya, you'll go down in history. 200 years from now, people will know the name Ruto. Sisi most probably will have been forgotten. Najua, his name will stay etched forever. Why do we need this expensive stuff? Na uliza ichukua kama an issue, but neza kuambia, this is what drives people away, especially the educated, away from the president. Because they look at him and they're like, this guy, he's too extravagant. I can't relate to me. Zile viatu amevaa, ni salary yangu ya a whole year. How am I supposed to relate to this guy? And this is the guy who's... And when he was deputy, alikuwa anapigilia matisho. Na kunga time, anapigilia tu sneakers to fake, tuetu za gikomba. So from that to red bottoms, very expensive watches, very expensive jackets, very like... Kuna jacket ya rais hapo nicheki ni 7 million shillings. Joni kama hiyo, nimeona gari hapo nje nikasa... gari hata tutetagi. Umenotice gari sijateta. Because gari... That's expensive. But nguo uraruka. 7 million shillings.
The thing is, maybe I think where we get it wrong is also the Google bit. Because I've given you a clear example. You may actually Google something. I know one of the Googles we made about the jeans. I think it was jeans here, Aaron Cheriot, and we allocated a price. That particular jeans, he was wearing it because I'm the one who bought him as a gift. And I know how much I bought it. It has nothing to do with the 200,000 price it was done.
Yeah, kile watu wameshare ni shati na red bottoms zake. Na red bottoms hatukushare. Yende alikuwa anatembea kama bata. Ni kama ule rapa wa US.
In fact, if I find one of the most moderated peoples in government is that Aaron Chariot that we are now doing is very, very absolutely moderated. And anyway, I hear you, and I hear you about opulence. I don't want to come out of defensive. I just needed to make the point that yes, opulence is there, but also yes, sometimes we allocate prizes out of our Google without necessarily going to not necessarily getting the right pricing for some of these people. However, I agree with you that a show of opulence is absolutely not right. But what I also think is that the president also needs to dress to a certain acceptable way. And this is a problem we have also with our presidential jet, for instance. So I've seen the calculations done on even when the president has actually gotten the jets for free, which he has actually. But sometimes
for free from country gun?
No, not necessarily even from a country. Friends just basically say you're going to the United States for a state visit. You don't have a plane, but beyond that, the other story
Fly
of
for free. Okay.
The story around the presidential debt. One day we are leaving, and I don't know whether the military will come after me, but I'll say this: we are coming off Tanzania from a heads of states meeting. We get to the airport. Every other president is getting to their plane and going Burundi, even Burundi, by the way. Everybody, Tanzania, they're flying back. We get in and our thing stops, doesn't start. That day we had to go back and sleep in Tanzania.
Wish to niko nafikiri mlisiku.
And that's the president who has a constitutional implication. If, for instance, the plane goes and crashes or something, there's a constitutional implication both on the wealth of country and the stability of country. So sometimes let's discuss these issues around also. Does the same president has adopted a daughter in the family? The same president has built with his personal money classrooms in Nairobi with his own personal money, classrooms that have benefited tens of thousands of people who now access education. That the same president has built.
I think optics is like you can do all this good stuff, but you do very small little things that piss off the people who would understand, especially because Ruto was very loved before you wave yote. You have to understand, like people used to, like I always share a video ya Jesse when Ruto won. I remember like Jesse alikuwa like, like this is the guy. So for us to see him switch from the deputy president ule alikuwa anavaa vitu za kawaida to a president who's always wearing expensive stuff, because those shirts Stefano Ricci, I'm sure even the Chinese don't bootleg those ones, najua. So hiyo nini, but najua karibu kutuhepa, so lazima nikuulize, selling of this public hizi maparastatals and whatever tuna sell, why do we need to sell them when the public is against it? Because this looks like this ile scenario ya budget where you're doing something like, I don't care what you think, I know what's good for you. And people are like, the Kenya pipeline, for example, this will outlive Ruto's presidency. This will outlive. So why make such drastic decisions na presidency ina nini? Alafu apart from that pia kwa watu wanashtuka nachika vile wanasema tulikuja mimi na Ian State House tukafanya vitu tufai kufanya kitu kama ku repair State House. If you're repairing State House and right now we are less than 2 years to the elections, you're repairing it for the next president. You understand, this looks like you know you're guaranteed to win the next presidency. So unasema nini juu hizo vitu? Because mimi siwezi saizi wewe mwenyewe ukisikia mwafa na take over hii ofisi utaanza kuichapa renovation, utaiacha tu vile iko.
Sasa unajua Kenya is a very interesting country. I think the president alimake a light statement juzi akasema it's very difficult to run Kenya.
Yeah.
So on one side tumesema no more taxes.
Yes.
No more debt. Yeah. So we already have debt we are paying, which is almost 3/4 of what we collect as government. A quarter is supposed to pay salaries and develop Kenya. So we've been told and we have listened because the public says don't. Then what do? We become innovative. Kwanza tukauza Eurobond, which was oversubscribed 7 times more to get money to be able to basically buy off debt with another debt and postpone the implications. So now we need to develop Kenya. So what do you need to do? You have business as government, which can do better in private sector. Hakuna mahali, for instance, tukiuza Kenya pipeline, hakuna mahali itaenda, sinabaki hapa Kenya.
But in to the hands of individuals. the hands of individuals. And
Even
normally
you
what
go-
happens is it's undervalued. That's what happens.
But it's the individuals, including you can buy it.
But it's going to be undervalued. And alafu hii ni Kenya.
What do you mean undervalued?
Hii ni Kenya. Like how are we going to know? Like majuzi tumesikia it's inauzwa 400 billion and it's worth 600 billion. So you see now if
Now
that's
you're quoting
already,
Gachagua. Surely
but
akona evaluation gani alikupatia? Because you're saying it's undervalued. Gachagua alikupatia evaluation gani ya kushoni 400 na 600 billion?
unajua, I can hate the messenger but not the message.
Yeah, but the message
Yes.
is what I'm challenging you on. I'm not even challenging you on the messenger. The message, where is the evaluation? for
Okay,
Kenya Pipeline?
you see, but you understand, like as soon as that seed is planted into people's heads and we start thinking
Again, yeah,
we are
that's-
2 years, we are 2 years into an election, why not wait? Why not do other means? Alafu acha kabla hata uansa hii swali, let's go back to something you said. Ulisema e-citizen and Uhuru ilikuwa na collect how much?
30 million a day.
30 million a day. And Ruto?
1 billion a day.
So through e-citizen tayari tunatengeza 33 times. If you're making 33 times what we used to make time ingine, why are we feeling more taxes under Ruto than we felt under Uhuru? Why do we need to sell all this public stuff and turn them into private hands under Ruto? Na unasema tuna collect more money. Are you seeing the way it's conflicting? It ends up looking like
I don't
hatutengenezi pesa basi.
I don't see a conflict. There was more debt under Ruto, very serious debt, which even up to now the country is choking. Very serious. In fact, we like Expressway, we are still paying. What you view as development is actually debt, SGR debt. So it is debt that we accumulated, and that burden was left to President William Ruto to sort. Anyway, yes, for the office, he has no. Otherwise, he has to sort it. You lost my train of thought, I think, on the original question, which was
Kwa nini tunauza hizi vitu?
yeah, why we are selling. I think that was the original question, and I would rather, the rest is social media, and I know now you're taking me to Finance Bill 2024, but I'll tell you the
As
following.
easy, sikupeleki
I'll
huko.
tell you the following. Safaricom was a small office within Telecom.
Yes.
It was actually an office. It was a unit within Telecom, the giant Kenya Post and Telecommunications Union. It is until government sold Safaricom that Safaricom is what it is today. Kenyan, you can get it on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. You can own it as an individual. It's purely government, but government gave offloaded shares to private sector to be able to. Kenya Re was a government business that was giving less to government than it's giving now. I think it's almost 20, 30 times more than what it was giving. It's the same thing with Kenya Pipeline.
So Kenya Pipeline, ita push tu bei ya mafuta juu. Like, what are we going to expect? We're going to expect
Why
more
will it
expensive
push
fuel.
bei ya mafuta juu?
Because if I'm an individual, I'm trying to make profit. You see, government has social
But
responsibility.
you're looking at the
government
final end.
does
There's
not have.
something called efficiency by Kenya Pipeline. In fact, today the president, before I came here, has announced you're setting up a sovereign and infrastructure fund. So the sale of these assets is then going to get into an infrastructure fund to be able to develop Kenya. How else are you going to build roads? You're saying don't increase taxes, don't take debt. How else?
But that
President of
will
Africa today, you're elected. Tell me where you get money to build roads.
stop corruption. And how do I stop corruption? Let me give you another example.
Okay.
I sat down with like one of people on our data centers hapa Kenya. Na tukabonga juu ya SHA. Na kabonga juu ya the digitization of SHA, where unless it was reported wrongly, but the digitization process was going to cost around 104 billion ikikam to data centers, blah, blah, blah. Na yeye mwenyewe alikuwa anasema state of the art. Na huu ni msee visit the best in the world za US and what state of the art ya Kenya ile nisa handle this 55 million Kenyans without any glitch would cost $100 million. Kenya tuna cost ni $800 million. That's 8 times the cost. Smart driving licenses under Uhuru zilikuwa zinaenda kucost $2 billion. Under Ruto zina cost $45 billion, even with a company called Pesaprint. Unachikizi ndio vitu, mi nikiwa home nisikia kuna kampuni inaitwa Pesaprint na mi najua hawezi print pesa. Una understand how it ends up looking? So the president might have very good ideas like SHA. SHA imefanya nikatukanwa nikaambua the way I've been paid by the government. I say on paper it's such a good idea, but when I hear it's that inflated, I won't support it because now I know money is going into individual pockets. You understand, Ivo? So very good ideas on paper, but individuals have to benefit.
I'm coming back to SHA as we conclude, but I want to ask you a question. You said President Mwafrika is elected. How he would collect money for Kenya is stop corruption.
Yes.
How much is corruption in Kenya per year?
How much corruption we lose? Uhuru alituambia tuna lose ni 2 billion per day.
Do you believe that?
And he was underquoting. I'm sure we lose.
How much do you lose?
I'm sure we lose more billions. Bana.
How much approximately?
I don't know.
So let's use 2 billion that has been quoted.
Yes, that's 700
so 2
billion a year.
700 billion a year. That's what we lose.
Yes, at least on the lower side.
So what do we remain with?
I don't know how much we remain with.
Yeah, you see, that's the point. Figures are easy to throw, but the reality is quite different. It is not possible that this country... And let me tell you, corruption must be stopped. However, you cannot rely that your entire fundraising will be stopping corruption for you to develop Kenya.
Kwambia umejicontradict kwa nini? Ulisema under Uhuru under Ruto Uhuru tuko na collect 30 million per day and Uhuru and Ruto tuna collect 1 billion. That's 30. Where was this 970 going? Part of it was going to corruption.
Yeah, again, you have actually answered the question.
Yes.
Part of it is just inefficiencies. You see, like for instance, the case in KWS, where a farm was collecting money but understating to government and keeping the rest for their development. So that was part of the problem. However, as I've told you, we need to, why we are selling, and that was the question, why we are selling this national asset is so that we create an infrastructure fund. Let me go to SHA, because I think this 104 billion has been said, and there has been no reaction. Data centers, we're not even going to the 100, is it billion or million you talked about? We're not even going to those levels on data centers.
Na itabidi tutafuta tena, because 1 hour na wewe haitoshi.
On 104 billion, we are connecting all our hospitals to fiber.
Yes.
We are then allocating equipment to all our hospitals. And this money, by the way, is not money we are paying at. You are taking 104 billion.
Tunajua inatoka private, but itatoka kwa taxpayer eventually.
I think you need to listen to me on that specifically. Hakuna pesa inatolewa inapeanwa mahali 104 billion. Sasa set up this system. First, this takes 10 years. Takes 10 years.
So it's
10.4
per year.
No. And it's not actual cash. You're still stuck on actual cash. I want you to move that on your head. It is connectivity to hospitals. It's creation of a portal for each of the 55 million Kenyans, so that then if I go get an accident out here and I go siulizwi blood group yangu ni gani, and that happens in every serious country. You don't do guesswork or start calling your parents to find out what your blood group. I want us to sit down. Specifically, by the way, give me a podcast on SHA, and I promise you, I want to bring you the entire team of SHA. What you do,
nishaka chini na Mohamed ni best kabisa, but yes, we can do that. Let's do that.
I want to bring you the entire backend team.
Yes.
Ya SHA. Uitisha maswali, real questions. Nilienda osi, mimi niko na kidney, nilienda hii osi sikulipiwa, na mtu anakupatia ID yake. Tukuja tuketi, nitaleta timu yote na computers hapa. Mtu anasema ni nini, tunaangalia, tunaona issue, tunakupatia answer. SHA ishawaka. The thing is, there are things that we need to sort in SHA. For instance, a person tagged me recently on social media about some condition which is not yet covered by SHA.
Yes.
And SHA is working on putting that condition in. So there are issues around SHA that we admit need work. But let's also not be in a situation where we say nothing is working. Today, before I came down here, because I thought you are going to raise a question on SHA, I looked at the statistics on the back end.
Yes.
Today, there are 30,000 patients who have gone to a hospital in Kenya. Out of the 30,000, 27,000 are being paid for by SHA. The other 3,000 could be that person is still admitted, has not been paid for, stuff like that. So, if 27,000 people have been paid for, those are real human beings.
But unakumbuka nini, kitu moja ina happen na SHA is also the way the system is being abused. Remember when I was talking about us losing 2 billion per day? How many false claims are happening under SHA? Unaunderstand hizo sando vitu zote, nasemaga if we were to close all these tabs, nacheki,
sasa hizo false claims,
there is no I think your goodwill ya kuzistop, because they can't be stopped.
But there's goodwill Mwafrika. False claims sahi watu wako kotini, tumeagree jana wamekuwa charged.
But watu watatu na hizi vitu niko sure ni kila pahali, like if I was to look at all these hospitals,
about 20 30 files were handed over to DCI. They are completing the investigation as it goes on. Already people have been charged and others will be charged. The investigation is going on. So there is goodwill. And this investigation did not come from Kenyans. It came from the ministry saying kuna false claims. and taking it to DCI. So there is goodwill. Yeah.
So tukimalizia ambia waseni siku gani tunaweza kupata for 2 hours 3 hours kuzani mtu wa tour tulikaa chini na Oroba ilikuwa ni close to 4 hours bana wezi tupatia wana na yeni serikali tuna need because we've not covered so much like if I look at here there are a lot of stuff we've not covered so but nitataka wasiwa understand si mimi sikuuliza
mimi nataka kwanza tufanye TikTok live ama kitu kingine live this podcast live.
Yes.
Ndio isikweta recorded ndio watu wasiseme
tunafanya a live Fridays sufajaga live but Fridays usiku tunafanya live on YouTube wasiwa kuuliza maswali
Fridays mazingira
but si moja si
tufanye ile ingine iko ya mashujaa hii kingine itakuwa Kitui for Mashujaa Day. I'm the chair of those national holidays so the other one
hiyo ingine next mimi mwenyewe sitakuwa and
so we do the first Friday of November
hiyo sasa utakuja kwetu ama tutakuja ofisi sasa
hiyo
si tuko South Sea
hiyo ni sawa I can even come nilisomea hapo South B so tunaweza kuangalia maeneo
sawa so umecheki jo ni vile Itumbi alikuwa na haraka but Buddha shukran sana like one of the things I hope this shows people is I'm someone who sometimes criticizes the government and I'm very harsh on the government but we can sit down I think we need to go back to your just because we disagree haimaanishi because wasa wamekuwa kitutishia ukikaa chini msewa gava tutawatch kwa kwenda huko lazima tukae chini na nyinyi like even if we disagree on things like I'll disagree on the president's fashion mi angalia jo kila kitu hapa nimevaa I think I don't think inapita tano na hiyo mi nafeel nimevaa vitu expert unacheki so
hata mimi kaunda suit yangu imejengwa na Charlie fulani hapo actually ni dembakia za Charlie Taylor.
Yes,
he does some very good counter suits. Na ni charge it.
So mimi kitu naweza sema ni shukrani at least tumeweza kukaa chini sisi.
Wacha nisimalize na historia ya mwisho.
Yes.
Creators out there. There is money for pushing government content. And nimeona criticism imekuwa
uone vile tunanja haujaona yeye amekuwa kilamba tu mate na alafu so far anasema tushalipwa so afadhali sana tulipwe.
Yeah, government content is important if you're pushing and we are asking you to do factual government content. Taki uende udanganya ati government imefanya na haijafanya. We want around agriculture, health, housing, the economy. We'll give you the notes. We'll give you where the markets, the 400 markets are being done to go and do them. We will allocate money. And other countries actually even have guidelines on how to engage influencers. We will develop those guidelines. We will engage you. I mean, come on, we are spending, if to do a 1-page advert in a newspaper is 1 million shillings. Why not spend the 1 million shillings to newspapers, then spend another 1 million shillings to content creators? Shida iko wapi? Mbona unapigana na hii story? In any case, let's try it out. Our creators deserve to tell the Kenyan story as much as mainstream media. So hii story ya kunigonga every day kwa magazeti wapi, I want to assure you, I will give money to monetize creators and the work they do for them to do government job. Wengine wananiambia kwa nini story ya gava? Kwani Safaricom wakikupatia job ya kuadvertise, wanakuambianga uende uchape Safaricom? Ama ukipewa job ya Kenya Airways uende sema Pride of Africa, wanakuambianga uwagonge? We will put money for advertisement for creators to tell the government achievement story.
Okay. Sawa. As long as umesema ni factual. So
yeah, factual.
Nisiende pale napata keja imetengenezwa ina dirisha na nafaa kuenda hapo ni digitize niweke dirisha haikuwa. Understand?
No, absolutely. It must be factual. Factual stuff.
Mohamed Abdi challenged us and it's something that we've not done and alituambia we go to any random hospital that has SHA and we talk to the patients. We've never done it but I think it's something we are going to do. He challenged us, SHA chairman. Alituchallenge tusimuambie place tunaenda, we just show up, we ask people. It's something we've not done but we are planning to do. But
yeah, and if you identified the general area, you don't have to tell me also the hospitals.
Yes.
Just to back up what you said, if you identify you want to go to Kitui, I'll facilitate that movement.
Yes.
For you to be able to reach to Kitui. Don't tell me which hospital you're going to.
Okay.
But the general area so that then I'm able to work on a budget for that transportation.
Okay, wacha tutacheki. Buda, shukran sana. Imekuwa ni episode
531.
532. Yes, imekuwa ni episode 532.
Yeah.
Kama kawaida tukisema like, subscribe, hit the notification button, tell a friend. Tukimalizia tukisema eko nene.
Eko nene.
Eko nene.